And that's it for me. Jackie?
So I'm going to, good morning, by the way. I think that, first of all, Jen, thank you for the insight into talent acquisition. We're going to transition a little bit into engagement and what that looks like. Just a little bit, tiny bit about where I'm coming from. Even though I'm actively recruiting from the outside now in more of an agency setting, I have become very, very passionate about culture building and engagement building and really what that looks like. So here are just a few of the places that I've done that or tried and failed. No, I'm just kidding. But I've tried a lot of things. I'm a self-proclaimed scrappy person in life. I figure out how to do anything and everything, and I'm very much a nerd. And that's that. So people engagement. When you think of people engagement, you probably think of your employees, how engaged they are, how they feel about coming to work, all of that. Well, transitioning from acquisition, I ask the same question to every single person that I talk to on phone screen. I ask, what is it that you're really looking for in your next role? Name 3 characteristics of what you'd like to see in your next job. They say the same 3 things every single time. Some words more, some less. They say, I want better opportunity, growth. I want to make an impact, and I want a good, positive culture. So when we think of culture, I'm going to throw out the number 53%. Kylie, you're going to know what this is. When I say 53%, this is the number of people that are not engaged at work. And that is unfortunately way too many people. And you think of, if you have 10 people in your company, your small company, that's like 5 and a little bit more of another person. They're kind of thinking about not being engaged. 13% are actively disengaged. They're going to probably run out after lunch today. And the rest, I think that's 34%, if I'm doing math correctly, are engaged. And that's great. But how can we move the needle and make it more people engaged? So let's start with, we're just going to run through this, who, what, when, how, and when, and what that looks like. I truly believe that the who starts at the top. It's your leadership. If your leadership is engaged, if they are very much on the same page, if they are very clear about their mission, what that is, communicating that out, then if your leadership team is engaged, the rest of your team will be engaged as well, and the engagement will follow. We'll talk briefly about what that looks like and how to do it. I just know from personal experience in the companies that you saw before listed on the slide, those companies, some had it down, and some not so much. And I, through trial and error and doing a lot of different activities, really tried to influence how that looks. So these are some of the things that I've done and have gotten some input from my friends in engagement. So when we're looking at what and how to do that from leadership, because not all of us are in top leadership and not all of us can influence in a way that is do what I say, and but there are other ways to influence that. So not only being a positive example, but speaking some truth and just really enlightenment into the current situation. So I'm going to speak from my experience coming from the HR leadership, talent engagement side of things. I have worked very closely with leadership teams, especially when it comes to hiring and culture building, like I mentioned. So the first thing is really to do a leadership audit. This may be a formal thing, like who is on board with the priorities, who is really exhibiting the core values that we want to see at this company, and who is not. Could be formal, could be informal. Like, what's the general feel? What's the general consensus? Who's making life easier for people? Who is not? The company that I currently work for, my eyes have been opened to the different kinds of leadership development that can happen, so that's why I'm including that here. It's insane the amount of difference leadership development and impact really makes, especially when they are engaged. Making sure leaders are supported, so whether that's you supporting them or they're supporting each other or really being supported from an outside firm, making sure that they are in the right spots and have what they need to succeed. It's interesting when you ask the question, do you have what you need? Really, when you get a true answer, a lot of times there are things lacking. And I'm going quickly on purpose, so if you want to talk later, I would absolutely love to. And then lastly, setting goals and tying those to the core values, how well they communicate with employees, and making sure that they're communicating to each other instead of just what the typical metrics are, right? making sure that their performance isn't just tied to numbers in terms of sales, development, I'm just throwing things out, will help drive that as well. So how do we do this? There are so many things you could say about this, but in brief, just to be really brief here, first, making sure your leadership team is on board, engaged, super excited. Once that happens, communicate to your team what your mission is, what your team needs to do. And I said every job seeker is looking for this. They want to know how they can make an impact. So the most important thing, I coach job seekers on this every day, and I coach hiring managers and leaders on this every day. Then that connection needs to be made. Personal job seeker connection and the employee connection, their purpose needs to be connected to what the overall purpose of the company is. Now, I think it's a really individual thing that they need to do. They need to be able to do that themselves, but you need to guide them there by communicating what the mission is very clearly. And then executing on that mission, not just saying, but also doing, as you know, is very important. Putting down what the KPIs are, actually following them. It's simple, it's basic, but it's not always easy, and I completely understand. And then listening to what employees have to say. You know, little tiny issues can blow up to be big issues in just a matter of minutes. And when you're talking about talent attraction and engagement, it's those little things that are going to show up on your Glassdoor page. And that's what people see. So we're talking about when, as in, how do you know when this is working? How do you get there? How do you dig in? A couple of different ways. I threw a bunch of words on the screen. We can talk more later. Really, I mean, if you really want to get to know what employees want and need and what the issues are, ask them. That can be focus groups and a neutral third-party person, not really a leader who's going to be influencing that, but somebody who's more neutral. Could be HR, could not be, could be somebody else. Pulse surveys, we could talk about tech all day long and how many amazing surveys there are out there, how many engagement platforms there are out there. I'm not going to endorse anybody right now, but I have ideas on what that could look like for you if your company is big enough, you know, so as not to risk anonymity. Looking at recognition, so recognition platforms are a thing, as most of you in tech know, but just going up and saying thank you means so much. You hear all the time, people don't leave companies, they leave bosses. That's sometimes true, but you can make it less true by just saying thank you. I've had some leaders in my life who are really amazing at that. They go out of their way to go make a phone call or write a thank you note. And honestly, I felt so supported myself by those people. And so coming from both sides of the table, it's just super important. And I know we're talking basic here, but having your leaders do that every single day really makes a difference. And then measuring, I mean, what we measure and then approves, right? So an easy way to do that is retention and productivity. There are a million ways to do that, and measuring, there's so many other things you can measure when it comes to engagement as well. Most of it's qualitative, so what people are saying, what the pulse is. It's not necessarily employee happiness, it's engagement. Are they showing up? Are they coming in? Or are they meh? Are they the 53%? I'm going really fast. What questions do you have? Some things that inspired me on my journey, and I am, like I said, such a nerd. I would love to come here Audible with you. These are some books that I read just in the last year that expanded my mind when it comes to culture very specifically. So I'm happy to talk more about what that looks like. I'm also a huge podcaster. And again, I'd love to connect. These are things that I talk about, I do in my free time, talk about in my non-free time also. And so I'm just gonna put that plug in right there. I wanna pass it over to Dawn.